Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Vened-Szwaja, and I wrote A Theatre Manifesto of an Old Man. It is written in a formula of an interview with myself. For the purpose of this interview, my wife, Roberston-Szwaja, is going to perform my alter ego.
What was your reason for writing your acting book, In Character, an Actor's Workbook for Character Development?
In the first place, it was a practical reason. When I began teaching and directing, I was doing it as actors do.
How do actors direct?
By showing the other actor how to do it. I would find a form of expression for them, and then they were imitating me. It works sometimes perfectly well.
So what's the problem then?
Well, this approach to teaching acting is considered not quite correct.
Why?
Because the actors might become merely copies of the teacher or director. It might result in fake acting. In particular, it might happen with inexperienced actors who don't have the sense of themselves yet.
How so?
They just imitate and it looks false.
That's bad.
Yes, it is. I realized that and gradually changed my approach from showing to verbally directing the actor. I wanted to activate the actor to be individually creative. I wanted to do it in not an arbitrary manner, but methodically. So I wrote a textbook for the students of my acting classes.
How would you explain your book, In Character, an Actor's Workbook for Character Development?
It is a textbook in which I describe the principles, a direction, assignments, techniques, exercises, and examples needed for the mastery of the actor's craft and art of interpreting and portraying character.
What do you think is most innovative in your book?
My method combines the external and internal approaches to character study into one complementary system, consisting of various psychological methods and movement techniques. Because the different aspects or dispositions of the character require different approaches.
What was your driving force in writing In Character?
Search for meaning.
How so?
It was personal. I was in a professional crisis. After having an illustrious career as a performer in the 70s and early 80s, I lost a desire to act. So I stopped acting. I could not make myself. I lost an inspiration. It did not make sense to me anymore.
Why not?
The times had changed, and my time had passed too.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing theater in the 70s. It was the time of cultural revolution. The attraction to doing theater was to break all the barriers and to liberate oneself to be free and open. It was a Dionysian dance, and I was cast as Dionysus in one show for 4 years. It conditioned me.
How?
Performing meant for me to make people excited and crazy. And they were. It was exciting. It went like that in high spirit for 10 years for me. But then it seemed suddenly that the liberating spirit started to disappear. In the middle of the 80s, it was entirely gone. People became rational and square again. You could not seduce anyone with a Dionysian dance anymore. So I started to feel out of my element and stopped acting. Despite of getting many propositions, People could not understand it because I was in the peak of my career. Neither did I. But I started to feel ashamed to stand in front of the audience without full conviction. I felt I had no close rapport with the audience anymore, and it made me feel uncomfortable. Something was wrong. I would probably quit the theater altogether for good, but I didn't know anything else. The theater was my whole life in the first decade of my adulthood. I did not know how to do anything else for a living. So I stayed in the theater and became a teacher of movement, mime, and acting. I had no problem with that. I was teaching instrumental skills that are universal and don't change, but artistry does change because it involves both the individuality of the artists and the spirit of the time that is in the audience.
So you were in survival mode teaching.
Yes, I was.
And what was the solution?
I had to find myself again.
Were you lost?
No, I cannot say that. I was not lost because I still had my craft, the techniques, but the theater got lost.
How so?
The irrational god of the theater, Dionysus, ran away in a panic. He lost his power. The Dionysian dance was over. We danced and liberated ourselves in the 60s and 70s. It was a beautiful but reckless ride. We broke all the rules and taboos. As if we were drunk. Many people lost their minds. Everything got destroyed. There was nothing left to break. And the dance became heavy because the spirit was gone. Then it stopped. The theater was taken over by different people who did not know how to dance, had no talent for it, no inspiration, no calling.
You are getting bitter and poetic.
Am I?
Yes.
I have to stop then.
No. It is very interesting, a diagnosis of the time. But let's get back to the subject of your book. How did all of that make you to write it?
Already then I realized that the theater became meaningless. The 20th century avant-garde was smashing the fourth wall of the theater in the revolutionary fever. For a while, it was exciting because distraction is exciting and it is theatrical. But then nothing was left but distraction. They broke not only the fourth, but all four walls of the theater, metaphorically speaking, though some of them did it literally. The theater gradually became insignificant. False gurus and reformers popped up as mushrooms after the rain. The theatrical manifestos multiplied, usually recycling the old avant-garde. There's nothing more boring in the theater than avant-garde with a grey beard. They were still preaching smashing the fourth wall and being against stereotypes. They had false ideas of freedom. They uncritically embraced the ideology of relativism and postmodernism. So they did what they pleased, with no obligatory rules, no principles, no structure, and no sense of form. It all became insignificant and still is even more. The result? The audience stopped coming to the theater.
What is the remedy?
I decided to straighten it up. I was hankering for meaning, and I did. I rebuilt all 4 walls of the theater, metaphorically speaking.
Of course.
Not in my book, but on my website I wrote, first take a look at this picture of an ancient theater. Over there is a photo picture of an ancient theater. I find it inspirational. That is what theater essentially is. A magical circle reserved for the actor to perform, surrounded by the audience where everybody is invited. Between them, there is an invisible barrier, the primary conditions of the theater. This barrier is a taboo. If you cross it, the illusion is gone. And there is no theater anymore. For the theatrical inspiration comes from within and not from without.
You have against relativism.
Don't take me wrong. As a term, it is useful. Some things are relative, but some are not. I'm against the philosophic concept that everything is relative, so there's no truth. Truth cannot be relative, but lies can. There's only one truth and many lies.
It's a very catchy slogan.
Thank you.
What is the alternative to relativism?
The alternative to relativism is absolutism.
Are you an absolutist?
If I think about it, yes, I am an absolutist. Curiously, it is the first time I declare it.
You're coming out.
Yes, I am. And it will outrage and shock all the relativists, all the postmodernists, and all the anarchists.
Do you mind?
I mind to reform them.
What do you have against postmodernism?
It is a mistake in art.
Why?
Postmodernism is a travesty of art. It deconstructs the original play and falsifies it. It is nihilism that brings theater down.
What is their main fault?
Lack of authenticity. In other words, indulging in falsehood.
What is your message to postmodernists?
To the directors, I say, do the play as written because the author knows better. To the actor, I say, portray the character as exactly as possible. Be strict and specific in the interpretations of the character. Do not indulge in free interpretations of the character. Be authentic.
What is the key to being authentic on the stage?
Lastly, I find a quote from William Shakespeare. If we are true to ourselves, we cannot be false to anyone. It is perfect. In other words, if the actor is true to himself on the stage, he will not appear false to the audience.
How did you address the issue of authenticity in your book?
I addressed it somewhat in a playful manner. Here's the quote. There's always only one right way to do it, and it is my way. The point is to find it. Maybe it sounds to you as a lack of flexibility on my part. Well, I must assure you that's not it. If I am to be authentic, I'm not able to do it any other way than my own. Acting is an act of self-identity in the fictional circumstance of the stage. And it can be accomplished only if my acting is authentic, true to myself. I may cheat my mother, my father, my lover, my child, even my audience, but I will never cheat myself.
Is it enough to be authentic on the stage to be a good actor?
No, it is not enough. Authenticity is only a good prerequisite to be a good actor, which is not that rare. Naturally, most of my acting students understand the concept of authenticity and don't have much problem to achieve it. Only one student in 12 on average has an inherent problem with authenticity. He or she always plays false. And you can say it, but they can't. They have falsehood in them. They created a false persona. It is their mask that they are not able to take off, so it seems. Or it would take a lot of therapeutic work to tear it down. That kind of person is not good candidate to be a good actor. However, all others, so to say 11 out of 12 on average, are able to be authentic. Some of them, not at once, but are able to arrive to it. Nevertheless, to be authentic is not enough to be a good actor. One has to have competence and craft in character development.
What is the perfect actor?
The perfect actor is one who is an expert on human nature, especially character.
What is the purpose of acting?
Essentially, it is to reveal human identity.
Why?
It is because human beings do not know who they are. Not really, not entirely. A human being is a puzzle to oneself that needs to be solved to figure out how to conduct oneself in life. So to speak, to figure out one's destiny.
How does the actor resolve this puzzle?
I say to the actor, find yourself in the character and the character in yourself.
How does that work in practice?
The actor portrays the character from the play as exactly as possible and expresses oneself at the same time. It is a dual process. The actor needs to find himself in the character because he does not know who he is in that role yet. And it is what is fascinating in acting, that the actor discovers herself anew in each role. Each role is a new adventure. Each character is a new quest for human identity.